Good afternoon. My name is Patty Brigham, and on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Florida, the Hillsborough County League of Women Voters, we thank you. We thank you to Mayor Bob Buckhorn, to State Attorney Mark Ober, and Police Chief Eric Ward for your courage and leadership in joining us today. We're addressing the open carry proposals, House Bill 163, Senate Bill 300. They are currently moving through the Florida legislature. The League of Women Voters is opposed to these open carry bills. We are not opposed to the Second Amendment. However, we do not believe this to be a Second Amendment issue. We believe this to be a public safety issue. Now, there are a number of myths floating around regarding open carry, but let's look at the facts. There has been no public outcry for open carry in Florida. These bills did not spring from the grassroots. They are top-down proposals from the gun lobby and their surrogates in the legislature. We hear the claim that Florida should allow open carry because there are 45 other states where it is legal. Well, that's true, but it's only partially true because depending on the state, there are certain restrictions. For example, in Alabama and Texas, you're required to keep your firearm in a holster. In these Florida bills, there is currently no holstering requirement. A permit holder could carry his or her firearm in their hand, in the pocket of their pants, waistband. We ask you, does that make us all safer? Florida also has draconian preemption laws on the books regarding firearms. It's illegal for local governments in our state to enact restrictions on guns, and if they do, they face stiff penalties. Yes, it's a fact that only permit holders would be allowed to openly carry, but it is also a fact that your average permit holder does not possess the training that our law enforcement undergo. Here's another fact. Open carry laws do not reduce crime. Research from a Stanford professor indicates that right to carry laws tend to increase aggravated assault. 100 million tourists visit Florida each year. What will the economic impact be when visitors see men and women walking down International Drive in Orlando or along Tampa's Riverwalk with guns in their hands or their waistbands? What will they say when they walk past churches and schools? Is this the kind of message that we want to send to our visitors, that people aren't safe without exhibiting firearms in our state? And we think not. Now it's my pleasure to introduce a longtime supporter of gun safety, Tampa Mayor Bob Buckhorn.
Thank you. I stand here as the mayor of the third largest city in the state of Florida, a gun owner, somebody who has, over the course of my career, had a concealed carry permit. I am proud to be a gun owner, and I will tell you that this bill is a solution in search of a problem. Responsible gun owners don't need to openly carry their weapons. There is no need for it. It only encourages bad things to happen. And I can't even imagine what my two children faced with somebody in a park or in a restaurant or at a sporting event who is openly carrying a firearm is going to think about the legacy that this state is leaving to them. This bill is totally unnecessary, but it is more symptomatic of a legislature that cares more about situations like this and issues like this and the needs and the concerns of the NRA, and a whole lot less about the needs and the concerns of everyday Floridians. They need to get focused on growing this economy, on appropriately spending the Amendment $1, on finding ways to expand Medicaid, and not kowtowing to the National Rifle Association on a bill that is totally unnecessary, that puts the economy of this state at risk, as you heard from the previous speaker. Just think about the upwards of $100 million in tourism that is generated by visitors to our state, many of whom live in countries where gun possession is strictly regulated. And to think about them showing up in Florida, which should be the Sunshine State, not the Wild West, and seeing everyday citizens walking around in everyday environments, packing heat. I mean, give me a break. That is absurd, absolutely absurd, and totally unnecessary. This is a community that gets it. This is a community back in 1998 supported the 3-day waiting period and background check at gun shows. In the aftermath of the killing of 2 of our officers, Randy Childers and Ricky Bell, by a felon who was buying guns at gun shows, this community, this county, and this city stood up and said, we were going to pass this, and as a result of that, there is a 3-day waiting period and a background check required for purchases of guns at gun shows. This legislation needs to be defeated. It's totally unnecessary. It is totally uncalled for, and I think it puts a lot of us in our economy at risk. I'm going to introduce now somebody who is familiar because for most of his life, he put his life in harm's way. He went into circumstances where bad guys did have guns, but just imagine a circumstance where he walked into an environment not knowing who the good guys were and who the bad guys were, and there were multiple people openly carrying their sidearms. How is a police officer supposed to determine when he walks into those circumstances who is good and who is evil? When he has to make a split-second decision whether to use deadly force or not. He doesn't have the luxury of saying, do you have a concealed carry? Are you one of the good guys? Or are you one of the bad guys? Let me introduce Chief Eric Ward, Tampa Police Department.
Thanks, Mayor. The mayor pretty much took most of my thunder. But what I will say is, this is not a Second Amendment issue. This is a safety issue for our law enforcement officers. I'm not opposed to our citizens owning firearms, as long as they're owning these firearms responsibly. But we have measures in place to prevent our average citizen from being harmed or injured. Having firearms open carry in the city of Tampa, in my opinion, is a bad idea. I believe that open carry will result in fear and confusion of our officers. Responding to those scenes where the average citizen is running around with an open carry firearm, that officer has to make that split-second decision if he's a bad guy or a good guy. We don't want to put our officers in that situation. So I stand here before you today with the League of Women, the state attorney, and our mayor to give my opinion and my beliefs on this open carry issue. It's something that I take dear to heart because when I think about the thousands of police officers I have on the street, I don't want to put them in a line of danger unnecessarily. Thank you.
Good afternoon. One of the things that I believe we can look at throughout the years when we evaluate situations like this is we learn a lot from history. And I want to tell you very quickly, if you haven't had the opportunity to do this, in 1893, the Florida legislature prohibited open carry in our state. When we became licensed to carry concealed firearms in October of 1987, when that law was passed, there was a loophole that was created and generated at that time, which left the ability to open carry. Immediately, Governor Bob Martinez and the legislature closed that loophole. This was done at the urging of then Attorney General Bob Butterworth and Florida's prosecutors. The ownership and possession of a firearm requires great responsibility. This includes education, calm thought, and reflection. And we've all been in these situations before where it is untenable for me to believe that in our community, in this state, we could come out to the wonderful park we have with our children, grandchildren, our families, and have people sit beside us with open displayed weapons. We've all been in situations or seen situations where there's been a fender bender. And I can think of nothing more unnerving in an event like that to have the individual, perhaps that you have hit, get out of their car with a firearm strapped to their side. Our neighborhoods and this community and this state deserve to be safe and secure from all dangers, especially those that are created as a result of this law. The law erodes both our safety and our security. I join the mayor, the chief of police, the law enforcement community in this state that go above and beyond the call of duty to protect us in voting a resounding, emphatic no to open carry in Florida. I thank you so kindly for allowing me to speak to you today.
Thank you so much. The League of Women Voters of Florida thanks you, all of you, for your strong leadership, for raising your voices for gun safety. We also thank the Florida Sheriff's Association for its strong opposition to the open carry proposals and their common sense alternate proposal. We stand with the citizens of Florida who believe that gun safety is for the good of all of our citizens. And we pledge to continue to fight to ensure that our citizens remain safe from needless and preventable gun violence. Now, we do have some time for a few questions.
Ward or State Attorney Ober, you accepted in my interview. You interviewed on cases where somebody was a concealed carry permit holder but accidentally showed their firearm and had charges pressed by either of you?
I can't think of any from our agency where that situation ever arose and an individual was arrested for open carry.
Do you recall anything like that?
No, I don't, but there is a statute that requires much more than that. If you display, it's called improper display or exhibition of a firearm. It does not include that scenario. Yeah, accidentally. It does not include that, and I'll be interested to see, and of course you're aware of the Sheriff's Office amendment to negate that, but I would be interested to see statewide how real that is. That is not in the law we call that a red herring.
What do you make of it? Let me go further then. Explain, why
Well, because, and we'll see what happens, but the Sheriff's Association did a very smart thing, saying if that's why the NRA is concerned about this, then we'll fix it. We'll see if the fix works. And I have a prediction, okay, that's not the real issue, because it is not a real, legitimate issue. From a law enforcement, let me speak even more specifically from a prosecutor's perspective. I don't buy it. Okay.
Chief Ward, the Police Chiefs Association actually supports this bill. Have you talked to anybody at that organization about your opposition to the bill?
No, the Bay Area Chiefs of Police hasn't come out with a statement in reference to supporting of this issue. My last meeting with them was just that. They're waiting to see the legislation that's put out before they make an opinion.
Okay, because earlier last month they said they did support it.
You probably making reference to the Florida Police Chiefs Association, which is different from the Bay Area.
Oh, right. I'm talking about the state line.
Okay. I don't know what the Florida State's Police Chiefs Association opinion is, but the Bay Area Police Chiefs Association has a different opinion.
Is there any damage
I can't really hear your question.
Oh, is there any data or a study that any of you can go to that demonstrates the trend? Has this been quantified, the impact of open carry laws?
That the open carry is not such a good idea? Well, put yourself in a law enforcement officer situation. If there was an incident that happened in Tampa, even though the citizen may think they're doing a courageous thing, law enforcement responding to that scene, they don't know if that's the bad guy or a good guy. Officers have been trained to intervene to save lives. And with the average citizen running around with a firearm, it's hard to determine if that's a good guy or a bad guy.
But has anyone quantified how it's happened in other states?
No, I'm speaking specifically to Tampa.
Right.
Mayor, can you talk about the feeling that Tampa's tried to create over the last several years, Jeff Bank and the waterfront here and the waterfront there, and how you see open carry as being a possible detriment to the feeling?
I think it's, if you think about how far we have come as a community and the enthusiasm and the excitement that has been engendered over the last couple of years, and you think about sort of the fundamentals that are occurring right now, I don't see in any of that mix, in any way, shape, or form in that scenario, that an open carry would be considered a positive thing. I mean, we're a safe city. Crime is down over 60% over the last decade. It's a city that is recognized as one of the hottest real estate markets in America. It's a city that's diverse and celebrates that diversity. Where is it in that mix? In that formula that has made us so good, does guns fit in? I mean, I just don't think there's a reason for that. I don't think there's a need for that. I think the intuitive answer that Eric gave from a law enforcement perspective would lead the average person to recognize that, look, we're all okay with the Second Amendment. I want the ability to buy guns if I choose to. The concealed carry permit allows me to carry it if I choose to, concealed. I think that satisfies 90% of responsible gun owners who don't see a need for open carry as part of their day-to-day living. And so I would submit to you, Evan, that open carry and guns being openly displayed in places of worship, in parks, in places where there are alcohol, is totally unnecessary. It's dangerous, and I think it would hurt us moving forward as a city. Now, I don't have any data, Kate, to prove that, but I can tell you intuitively, if I'm walking down Franklin Street Mall and there's a bunch of folks hanging out here like the OK Corral, that's not going to be good for our economic development efforts.
For the League of Women Voters representative, you mentioned, because I hear this from the proponents, that over 40 states do have this. Like, of course, an outlier on this. You said there's variations on that.
That's right.
Can you say how many states have a variation between what what's happening here?
It's across the states. I couldn't tell you state by state. But I do know that Florida's preemption laws that restrict municipalities from enacting their own laws or ordinances, our preemption laws are the most draconian in the country. And I'd like to speak to the data question about open carry. If you look at Colorado Springs a few months ago, there was a shooting where a gentleman was walking around with a gun openly. It was reported to 911, and the woman who called it in was told it's the law. He's allowed to openly carry, and he wound up shooting people. So that's a danger, and that is what our main concern is. It is dangerous public policy.